There is a book that has changed more lives than perhaps any other single work in the entire Neville Goddard library. It's not the longest. It's not the most complex. In fact, it's so short you could read it in a single sitting. And yet within its pages lies the entire secret of creation itself. The book is called Feeling is the Secret, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that if you truly understood what Neville revealed in those brief chapters, you would never again doubt your power to shape your world. You clicked on this because something in you knows that feeling matters. You've tried to think your way into a new reality. You've tried affirmations, visualizations, perhaps even prayers, and yet something still feels incomplete. The results come and go. The doubt creeps back, and you find yourself wondering, what am I missing? What you've been missing is this: thought is not the creator. Feeling is. Not emotion, not sentiment, but the deep inner knowing, the acceptance, the embodied sense of already being what you wish to be. This is what Neville meant when he declared again and again that feeling is the secret. And today I'm going to take you inside this foundational text and show you the three-part formula hidden within it. The one that, once grasped, changes everything. Welcome. If this is your first time here, this channel is dedicated entirely to the teachings of Neville Goddard, one of the most profound mystics and teachers of consciousness the modern world has known. We go deep, we go practical, and we speak to you as someone who is ready not just to learn these ideas, but to live them. In this episode, we're unpacking Feeling is the Secret, the book that for many becomes the turning point in their entire understanding of manifestation and consciousness. We'll explore the core argument Neville makes, why feeling, not thought, is the true medium of creation. We'll uncover the three-part formula that runs through the entire book, a structure so elegant and so practical that once you see it, you'll wonder how you ever missed it. And then we'll walk together through the application, the precise inner work you can do tonight, right now, to begin living from this secret. Let's begin. Neville opens Feeling is the Secret with a declaration that is both simple and shattering. He writes, "The world you live in is your consciousness objectified, not influenced by your consciousness, not shaped in part by your thoughts, objectified, pushed out, made visible. Everything you see, everyone you encounter, every condition you experience is you, externalized. And the mechanism by which this externalization happens is not your reasoning mind, not your intentions, not even your visualizations. It is your feeling." Neville says feeling is the one and only medium through which ideas are conveyed to the subconscious. Let that sink in for a moment. You can think about wealth all day long. You can picture it vividly, in high definition, with every sensory detail perfectly rendered. But if, underneath that image, you feel poor, you feel unworthy, you feel that wealth is something outside of you that must be chased or earned or deserved, then it is that feeling that your subconscious accepts as fact. And your world, obedient as it always is to your inner state, will reflect that poverty back to you in 1,000 forms. This is why so many people fail with what they call manifestation work. They are trying to override a feeling with a thought. They are trying to convince themselves of something their entire being does not accept. And the subconscious, which Neville tells us is the womb of creation, does not respond to argument. It does not respond to wishful thinking. It responds only to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Neville was obsessed with this phrase, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Neville was obsessed with this phrase. He used it in nearly every lecture, every book, every private conversation that was ever recorded. And it is the entire thesis of Feeling is the Secret. The question is not whether you can imagine your desire. The question is, can you feel yourself to be the person for whom that desire is already a present fact? Can you enter into the state of consciousness that would be natural to you if what you want were already true? This is not pretending. This is not fake it till you make it. This is something far more profound. It is the recognition that states of consciousness are real. They are not fantasies. They are not psychological tricks. They are the very substance from which your outer world is formed. Let me give you an example, one that Neville himself loved to use. A man wants a promotion at work. He has been passed over again and again. He decides to apply Neville's teaching. So he sits down, closes his eyes, and imagines his boss congratulating him, shaking his hand, welcoming him into the new role. He pictures the new office, the new title on his business cards. But as he does this, he feels a tightness in his chest. A small voice in his mind whispers, "Who are you kidding? They'll never choose you." And though he continues the visualization for weeks, nothing changes. He grows frustrated. He concludes that the law doesn't work, or that it works for others but not for him. But what went wrong? He had the thought. He had the image. What he did not have was the feeling. He imagined the promotion, but he felt himself to still be the man who had been passed over. He was thinking from his desire, not from the state of already having it. Neville would say that this man never actually impressed his subconscious at all. The subconscious only heard the feeling, and the feeling said, "I am still waiting. I am still unworthy. I am still outside of what I want." And so that is the state that continued to externalize in his world. Now contrast this with another story, one that Neville recounts in his lectures. A woman wanted to marry a specific man. He had shown no interest. In fact, he was involved with someone else. She came to Neville's lectures and learned the principle. She did not beg, plead, or try to manipulate circumstances. She did not send him letters or engineer chance meetings. Instead, she went inward. Every night, before falling asleep, she imagined the feeling of wearing a wedding ring. She felt the weight of it on her finger. She felt herself to be a married woman, not in the future, but now. She felt the contentment, the security, the love that she would feel if she were already his wife. She did this not with strain or desperation, but with a kind of gentle, delighted acceptance. She lived in the feeling, and within weeks, circumstances began to shift in ways she could never have predicted or arranged. The other relationship dissolved. The man reached out to her, and within months they were engaged. What changed? Not the outer world first. Her inner state changed. She moved from longing to fulfillment. She moved from wanting him to having him in consciousness. And the outer world, which is only ever a mirror of consciousness, had no choice but to reflect that shift. This is the power of feeling. It is the secret that Neville says is hidden in plain sight throughout all of Scripture, throughout all mystical teaching. When Jesus said, "Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and you will," he was speaking of the feeling of having received it. Belief in Neville's framework is not intellectual assent. It is the feeling of certainty. It is the inner knowing that does not argue, does not doubt, does not wait for confirmation. It simply is. And the moment you achieve that feeling, the moment you rest in it, the subconscious accepts it as fact and begins the process of externalization. Neville says the subconscious never fails to express that which has been impressed upon it. Not sometimes. Not if you're lucky. Always. The question then is not whether the law works. The question is, what are you impressing upon your subconscious right now in this moment? What is the feeling you are living from? Now let us go deeper into the structure of the book itself, because hidden within feeling is the secret, is a three-part formula that Neville gives us for mastering this creative process. I call it a formula not because it is mechanical, but because it is a reliable pattern, a sequence that when followed produces results as predictable as any law of physics. The three parts are these. First, define your ideal. Second, enter into the feeling of being that ideal. Third, persist in that feeling until it hardens into fact. Let's take each one in turn, because each contains layers of meaning that most readers miss on the first pass. First, define your ideal. Neville is not telling you to make a wish list or to clarify your goals in the way a business coach might. He is asking you to identify the state of consciousness you wish to embody, not the thing you want, but the person you would be if you had it. Do you want health? Then your ideal is not a perfect body. Your ideal is the consciousness of being a healthy person, someone who moves through life with vitality, who takes their energy for granted, who does not think about illness because it is so foreign to their experience. Do you want wealth? Then your ideal is not a bank balance. Your ideal is not a bank balance. Your ideal is the consciousness of abundance, someone who feels financially secure, who makes decisions from a place of plenty, who does not flinch at prices or opportunities. Neville says you must have a definite aim, a clear objective, but that objective is always a state of being, never a mere condition. Conditions come and go. States of consciousness are causal. They generate conditions effortlessly, naturally, inevitably. This is a subtle but crucial point. Most people approach manifestation by asking, "What do I want?" Neville would have you ask, "Who would I be if I already had it?" because it is only by becoming that person in consciousness that the thing can come to you. You do not get something in order to feel differently. You feel differently, and then the thing comes. This is the reversal that most never make. They believe the outer world must change first, and then their inner state will follow. But Neville declares, and I tell you this with absolute certainty, it is always without exception. I tell you this with absolute certainty. It is always the inner change that precedes the outer. Always. Without exception. The world is yourself pushed out. If you change yourself, if you change the feeling from which you operate, the world must change. It has no choice. It is your mirror. So you begin by defining your ideal with precision and clarity, not with strain or effort, but with a kind of gentle, loving attention. You ask yourself, how would I feel if this were already done? What would be the natural inner tone of my life? And you let that answer rise in you, not from your head, but from somewhere deeper, from your heart, from your gut, from the place in you that knows, even if your mind does not yet believe. This is the first step. And already in just this step, many people stumble, because they have been conditioned to think of desire as something outside themselves, something to be pursued or grasped. But Neville teaches that your desire is already within you as a state. It already exists. All you must do is claim it. All you must do is say in the depth of your being, I am this. Not I will be. Not I want to be. I am. The second part of the formula is to enter into the feeling of being that ideal. This is where feeling is the secret becomes intensely practical. Neville gives us a method, one that he refined and taught for over 30 years. He calls it the state akin to sleep. We know it today by the acronym SATS, though Neville himself never used that term. What he taught was this: every night as you are drifting off to sleep, you have a window of profound creative power. In that drowsy twilight state, the conscious mind relaxes its grip. The gates to the subconscious swing open, and whatever you impress upon the subconscious in that moment is accepted without question, without resistance. This is the state Neville used to transform his own life again and again. It is the state he instructed thousands of students to use, and it is the state you must learn to master if you wish to live by this secret. Here is how you do it. You lie down in your bed, comfortable and relaxed. You do not need candlelight, crystals, or rituals. You need only yourself and your imagination. You close your eyes and you think of a scene, a single short scene, that would imply the fulfillment of your desire. Not the desire itself, but the evidence of it. If you want a new home, you might imagine touching the wall of a room you know to be in that home, feeling the texture, saying to yourself, I love this room. I'm so glad we live here. If you want a relationship, you might imagine lying beside someone, feeling their warmth, hearing them breathe softly beside you. If you want financial freedom, you might imagine casually writing a check for a large amount, feeling no anxiety, only ease. The scene should be simple, repeatable, and sensory. Only ease, and most of all, it should produce in you the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Now you loop that scene. You run it again and again in your mind, gently, without force. You add sensation. You add the feeling of touch, the sound of a voice, the quality of light. And as you do this, you let yourself feel it to be real. Not real in the future, real now. You are not pretending. You are not visualizing something far away. You are entering into a state of consciousness, and in that state it is already true. Neville would say, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and observe the route that your attention follows. You do not need to know how it will happen. You do not need to plan the steps or manipulate the means. You need only to remain faithful to the feeling, and your attention, your outer focus, will be gently, inevitably guided along the path that leads to its fulfillment. This is not idle daydreaming. This is the most powerful creative act a human being can perform. Because when you do this in the state akin to sleep, you are bypassing the conscious mind entirely. You are going straight to the subconscious, the builder of your world. And the subconscious does not know the difference between a physical fact and an imagined one that is felt to be real. If you feel it, it accepts it. If it accepts it, it externalizes it. This is not philosophy or metaphor. This is how creation works. And here we arrive at the third part of the formula. Persist in that feeling until it hardens into fact. Neville uses that phrase again and again. Persist. Persistence is not strain. It is not forcing yourself to believe. It is not white-knuckling your way through doubt. Persistence, in Neville's sense, is fidelity. It is remaining true to the state you have claimed. It is refusing to return to the old feeling, the old assumption, the old identity. It is remaining true to the state you have claimed. It is refusing to return to the old identity. Neville says, all you can possibly need or desire is already yours. You need no helper to give it to you. It is yours now. Call your desires into being by imagining and feeling your wish fulfilled. But this requires that you do not waver. You do not let the evidence of the senses pull you back. You do not let the evidence of the senses pull you back. You do not let the delay, the opposition, the doubt of others shake your inner conviction. You live in the end. You think from the state of the wish fulfilled, not toward it. Let me be plain about what this looks like in practice. A woman wants to heal a relationship with her daughter. They have not spoken in months. There was a fight, painful words, a wall of silence. She begins to apply this teaching. Every night as she falls asleep, she imagines hearing her daughter's voice on the phone, warm and loving. She imagines hugging her, feeling her presence, hearing her laugh. She does this not once or twice, but every night. And during the day, when her mind wanders back to the hurt, the anger, the fear that it will never be resolved, she gently redirects herself. She does not argue with her thoughts. She simply returns to the feeling. She thinks from the end. She says inwardly, my daughter and I are close. We love each other. All is well. Not as an affirmation she is trying to convince herself of, but as a fact she is choosing to live from. And week by week, her own emotional state begins to shift. She stops feeling anxious. She stops feeling wronged. She begins to feel peace. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, the daughter reaches out. A text, a tentative conversation. And within a short time, the relationship is not only restored, but deeper than it ever was before. What happened? Did the woman change her daughter? No. She changed herself. She changed the feeling from which she related to her daughter. And because the world is herself pushed out, her daughter could not help but reflect that change. This is what persistence means. It means you do not let the outer world dictate your inner state. It means you guard your feeling the way a gardener guards a tender seedling. You protect it. You nourish it. You do not expose it to every harsh wind of circumstance or opinion. Neville says, do not discuss your ambitions or opinion. Neville says, do not discuss your ambitions or opinion. Neville says, let them see the result, but keep the method to yourself. Why? Because the feeling is fragile at first. It is new. And if you speak it to someone who does not understand, who looks at you with doubt or pity or condescension, that energy can shake your resolve, not because their doubt has power, but because you may allow it to pull you out of the state. So you keep the secret. You live in it privately, silently, until it becomes so natural to you that nothing can disturb it. And when it has hardened into fact, when it has become so real in your inner world that you no longer even think about it, then and only then does it appear in your outer world, not as a miracle, but as the natural outpicturing of your consciousness. Now there is a question that arises at this point, and it is one that Neville addresses directly in Feeling is the Secret. What about doubt? What about fear? What if I cannot sustain the feeling? What if I try and it doesn't feel real? Neville's answer is both compassionate and uncompromising. He says, the time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be. In other words, if you can slip into the feeling easily, naturally, as if it were already true, the manifestation comes quickly. If the feeling is strained, forced, or interrupted by constant doubt, it takes longer. But here is the key. It still comes. Because even if you doubt during the day, even if you waver, if you return to the feeling every night before sleep, you are still impressing the subconscious. You are still planting the seed. And the subconscious is faithful. It does not judge your doubts. It simply responds to what is most consistently felt. So Neville would tell you, do not berate yourself for doubting. Do not think that a single fearful thought has ruined everything. It has not. What matters is where you return. What matters is the state you fall asleep in. Because sleep is the door to the subconscious. And the last feeling you impress upon yourself before sleep is the one that sinks deepest, that does its work most effectively. This is why Neville was so insistent on the practice of falling asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He did it himself every night, for years. And he taught that if you do this faithfully, night after night, your entire life will transform, not because you are manipulating reality, but because you are aligning yourself with the truth of who you are. You are God. You are the operant power. And the feeling you claim as yours is the command you give to the infinite creative force within you. Let us pause here and go deeper into what feeling actually is, because there is a common misunderstanding that trips people up. When Neville says feeling, he does not mean emotion in the way we usually think of it. He is not asking you to generate excitement or happiness or bliss. Those may come, and they are lovely, but they are not the core. The feeling Neville speaks of is a sense of naturalness. It is the quiet inner knowing that something is so. Think about the feeling you have when you say your own name. There is no effort. You do not need to convince yourself that your name is your name. There is no effort. You do not need to convince yourself that your name is your name. You just know it. It is snap it. That is a feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is calm. It is certain. It is free of striving. When you can imagine your desire and feel about it the way you feel about your own name, about the chair you are sitting in, about the ground beneath your feet, then you have it. Then it is done, because the subconscious has accepted it as fact. Neville once said, "The great secret is a controlled inner talking, from premises of fulfilled desire." Inner talking. This is another key that runs through feeling is the secret, though he develops it more fully in other works. Your inner conversations, the silent dialogue you have with yourself all day long, are shaping your world just as surely as your formal imaginal acts. If you spend your day inwardly complaining, inwardly rehearsing problems, inwardly imagining worst-case scenarios, you are impressing the subconscious with those feelings, those assumptions, and it will faithfully produce a world that matches them. But if you revise your inner talking, if you speak inwardly from the end, from the state of fulfillment, then that becomes your reality. Neville would have you catch yourself. Throughout the day, when you notice you are inwardly speaking from lack, from fear, from limitation, simply stop. Do not condemn yourself. Simply replace that inner speech with the opposite. If you catch yourself thinking, "I can't afford that," replace it with, "I am so grateful for my abundance." If you catch yourself thinking, "They don't respect me," replace it with, "I am valued and honored." Not as affirmations you are trying to make true, but as the truth you are choosing to live from. This is controlled inner talking, and it is one of the most practical moment applications of feeling is the secret. Now I want to take you into the application. The practice you can begin tonight. We've covered the theory, the why and the what. Now let us walk through the how, step by step, as if I am there with you, guiding you into the state. Tonight, before you sleep, you are going to construct a scene. A single, simple scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. Do not make it complicated. Do not try to imagine the entire story. Just one moment, one snapshot, one sensory-rich event that would only occur if your wish were already a fact. Let's say, for example, you want a new job. Do not imagine the interview. Do not imagine applying. Imagine receiving a phone call in which you are congratulated and offered the position. Or imagine sitting at your new desk, touching the nameplate with your name on it. Or imagine telling a friend, "Yes, I started last week, I love it." Choose the moment that gives you the deepest feeling of relief, of satisfaction, of naturalness. Once you have your scene, lie down, close your eyes, relax your body, take a few deep breaths, letting your limbs grow heavy, letting the day release from your shoulders. And now, begin to run the scene. See it from your own eyes, not as an observer, but as the participant. Feel the textures. Hear the sounds. If there is touch, feel it. If there is a voice, hear it. If there is. If there is a temperature, a weight, a scent, include it. The more sensory detail you add, the more real it becomes to your subconscious. And as you loop this scene, gently, softly, again and again, you allow yourself to feel it. You feel the satisfaction. You feel the quiet joy. You feel the sense of finally it is done. You do not feel excitement necessarily, though that may come. You feel naturalness. You feel as though this is simply how things are now. and you keep looping the scene, letting it lull you into sleep. Do not fight sleep. Let the scene carry you into unconsciousness, because that is the moment when it sinks deepest. That is the moment when the subconscious receives it without question. Do this every night, not with strain, but with a kind of gentle, loving dedication. Make it your ritual, your sacred time. And during the day, whenever your desire comes to mind, do not long for it. Do not worry about when or how it will come. Simply recall the feeling of your scene. Let that feeling wash over you. Let it remind you of who you are now. And if fear arises, if doubt creeps in, do not fight it. Simply observe it. Say to yourself, that is the old state. I no longer live there. And return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is persistence. This is fidelity. This is how you impress the subconscious so deeply that it has no choice but to externalize your desire. Let me share one more testimony, one that illustrates the power of this practice in a way that still moves me. A man attended Neville's lectures in the 1950s. He was deeply in debt, on the verge of losing his home. He came to Neville desperate, asking what to do. Neville told him, "Go home. Tonight as you fall asleep, imagine you are debt-free. Imagine the feeling of opening your bank statement and seeing a positive balance. Imagine writing the final check to clear your debts. Feel the relief. Feel the freedom. Do this every night and do not waver." The man did as he was told. Night after night he fell asleep feeling financially free. He did not know how it would happen. He had no prospects, no plan. But he remained faithful to the feeling. And within 2 months, a distant relative he had not heard from in years contacted him out of the blue. This relative had recently come into money and felt moved to help him. The debt was paid in full. The man's life was restored. When he went back to thank Neville, Neville simply smiled and said, "You did it. You assumed the feeling, and your world had no choice but to conform." This is the power you hold. This is the secret that Neville laid bare for anyone willing to listen. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the world. Your consciousness is the only reality, and the feeling you sustain is the mold into which that consciousness is the mold into which that consciousness is the pause itself. Change the feeling, and you change everything. This is not philosophy. This is not metaphor. This is the literal, mechanical, lawful way that reality is formed. Now let us zoom out to the deeper reflection, the spiritual dimension of what Neville is teaching and feeling is the secret. Because this is not ultimately about getting a job or a house or a relationship, though those things are valid, and Neville honored every human desire. This is about awakening to who you really are. This is about awakening to who you really are. Neville says in the opening of the book, the changes in the outer world are the automatic result of the change in consciousness. And consciousness, he tells us, is God. Not a God far away, not a deity to be petitioned or appeased, but God is the very essence of your being, the I am that you are. When you say I am, you are speaking the name of God, and whatever you attach to those words you make true. If you say I am poor, you are declaring poverty must be. If you say I am healthy, you are God declaring health, and health must be. This is not arrogance. This is the recognition of your true nature. Neville was deeply influenced by the mystical traditions, particularly Kabbalah and Christian mysticism. He understood the scriptures not as history, but as psychology, as maps of consciousness. And he saw in them the same message over and over. You are the creator. You are the vine, the branch, the temple. You are the one in whom all things are possible. And the mechanism of creation is your assumption, your feeling, your inner state. So when you practice falling asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not just manifesting a thing. You are remembering yourself. You are stepping into the truth that has always been. You are remembering yourself. You are stepping into the truth that has always been. You are claiming your inheritance as the operant power, the one who speaks, and it is so. This is why Neville could say, with such passion and conviction, dare to assume you are what you want to be. Because he was not asking you to fake something. He was asking you to recognize something. He was asking you to stop pretending to be small, limited, powerless, and to step into the fullness of your being. And the world, which is only ever a mirror, will reflect that fullness back to you in forms you cannot yet imagine. Neville often quoted from the book of Job, "Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. This is not wishful thinking. This is the structure of reality. You decree by feeling, you establish by assuming, and the thing comes not because you earned it, but because you claimed it, because you dared to believe that you are what you desire to be. There is a line in feeling is the secret that I want to leave with you as we close. Neville writes, "You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you do not see it." Read that again slowly. You are already that which you want to be. In consciousness, it already exists. The moment you conceive the desire, the fulfillment was born alongside it. They are not separate. The desire and its fulfillment are one. Your work is not to create it. Your work is to accept it, to feel it, to live from it. And when you do, when you persist in that feeling, when you let it become the most natural thing in the world, then the outer world has no choice but to present it to you as a fact. Do not let this teaching become another piece of information you file away. Let it become the lens through which you see everything. Let it become your daily practice, your nightly prayer, your moment-to-moment awareness. Ask yourself, throughout the day, what am I feeling right now? What state am I living from? And if it is not the state of your wish fulfilled, gently, lovingly return to it. Do not berate yourself. Do not think you have failed. Simply return, again and again, because every time you return, you are strengthening that state. You are making it more natural. And the day will come sooner than you think, when you realize you are no longer trying to feel it. You simply do. And in that moment you will look around and see that your world has changed, not because you forced it, but because you became it. This is the book that changes everything. This is feeling, is the secret. Neville gave you the formula. Define your ideal. Enter into the feeling of being that ideal. Persist until it hardens into fact. 3 steps. Simple, but not easy, because they require you to take full responsibility for your consciousness. They require you to stop blaming, stop waiting, stop dating. They require you to take full responsibility for your consciousness. They require you to tact, and once you do, once you truly live from this secret, you will never see the world the same way again. You will know, beyond any doubt, that you are the creator of your reality, and that knowing will set you free. So tonight, as you lie down to sleep, do not let the concerns of the day follow you into your rest. Do not replay the arguments, the frustrations, the disappointments. Instead, turn within, construct your scene, feel your wish fulfilled, and let that feeling carry you into the deep. Let it be the last impression on your consciousness before sleep takes you. And trust that the subconscious, faithful and obedient, is already at work, already rearranging the pieces of your world, already preparing the path that will lead you, effortlessly and naturally, into the life you have claimed. You are not hoping, you are not wishing, you are creating, because feeling is the secret, and now you know it. Now go and live it. Now go and live it.